Dance Stars. I'm so happy to present you Andrea Snow. Andrea, I have a to share with you.
Hi, guys.
You will never guess how I met you. I met you last year during the Oaxaca. No, I'm sorry. During the competition before the Euroson, I saw you in spirit.
Bacanissima?
Exactly. And I saw
Oh,
you, and I think you were only doing your solo at this time, and
yeah.
you were absolutely amazing and beautiful, but you were underage, so I did not contact you. You are here because Soria, the over 40 bachata champion, told me to contact you. So thank you so much for the time you're going to share with us. You are the actual sub-champion of the Euroson Latino. You have so many podiums. I started to write all the podium you had, but you have so many podiums because you have so many choreos. You have a salsa solo amateur, bachata solo amateur, pro-am solo showcase, bachata pro-am showcase. It's a lot. So we're going to.
It's a lot, yeah.
As a champion. So thank you so much. We're going to do a short background of your how you started to dance and why salsa and why bachata.
Okay, so basically, I started to dance because of my mom. So, well, salsa and bachata. I originally started with jazz, ballet, and lyrical, but I started when I was maybe 10 years old, and then I went competitive from there when I was 12. But it was never really something like now that I compare both of my experiences, I realized it was never really something that I was like that passionate about because I would always go home and I wouldn't practice. I literally would just show up. I always gave my all, but it wasn't like the same drive that I have now. When I made the switch from like the traditional dance styles, let's call it, like jazz, ballet, to salsa and bachata, I was 16 and I hated it. Like the first year, like that year from 16 to 17, I absolutely hated it. And my mom, I remember she would tell me, "Why do you want to do jazz and ballet at a club? You're not going to like do fouettes in the middle of the dance floor." She's like, "You should know how to like dance so that socially you can like be more involved and you won't have to sit down." And I absolutely hated it. I remember that I would have like my stomach would be literally in knots before every single class. I never wanted to go. I think I was just so set in my old ways that I just didn't want to accept something new. So for the first year, she basically made me quit the other dance styles that I was doing and made me focus on just salsa. And she's like, "I already paid for you for the year, so you can't not do it." So I was forced to go. And then after I did my first solo, which was when I was turning 16 or 17, sorry, that's when I really started to fall in love with all of this.
Really? Why did you do styles? Why did you start a new dance style if you didn't like it? You were forced to, right?
Yeah, my mom literally told me, she's like, "I'm paying, so you have no choice." She did
Okay.
not give me an option. I was forced.
Okay. Where were you at that time in Canada, right?
Yes, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Okay.
So
Because you have a super fun story. You do speak Spanish fluently because you're also Latina, and your I'm sorry, is it the case?
yes, my mom is from Nicaragua.
Okay,
So my dad's Canadian, but my mom is from
yeah,
Central America.
and your professional teacher is from Mexico, so you travel a
Yes.
lot. Actually, I was so confused when I started to follow you because I thought, wait, I saw her solo in the Canada South Congress, but her teacher is in Mexico. How so? Where did you start, and why is that now?
Okay, so it's actually so I dance at a dance academy called Salsa Explosion Dance Company here in Winnipeg, and I'm so grateful to them because not only have they given me so many opportunities to grow as a dancer, but they also brought my current professional partner, which his name is Peter Rodriguez. So they brought him in to teach classes, And I basically asked, I was like, would I be able to do like a pro-am, like a partnership? Because I always kind of wanted to expand into like partner work routines. And before that, I had only kind of done one thing with a partner, like one dance. And it was always really intriguing to me. So then I asked, and they were super, super accommodating and supportive. And my teacher, Ana Lopez, was like very attentive. And we basically started. He came for the first time he came, he was there. We had 3 months. We did the routine from, I think we started in August, and then we did it all the way up to, well, he left for a little bit and then he came back and we did it for that Canada Salsa Congress, which was in 2023. And then from there, after that Congress, he left, he went back to Mexico, and I went to Euroson. So we didn't practice for that whole time being. And then I come out like one day before, 2 days before, and we just do it. So that's kind of how it's always been lately. So I'll go out like 2 days or a day before the competition. We practice, and then it's kind of just, you got to do it.
You started right away with two choreos, like with the salsa and bachata style?
No. So how I started, I basically started dancing just salsa first because I was in a group of teens and all we really did was salsa. So the year after that, I started bachata. So I actually started a bit later, and we didn't start our bachata program till this year because I kind of had to force him.
This is so funny.
He didn't really want to do it, and then I spent like a full year being like, please, 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 can you please do it? And then finally he's like, okay.
This is so funny coming from a girl who at first did not enjoy salsa and bachata.
Yeah.
And tables turned, and now you were the one wanting to do bachata style. Yeah, that's amazing. You
My
mentioned,
mom rubs it in my face every day. She's like, you're doing this because of me.
remember you're champion because of me.
Yep.
You mentioned that your love for the salsa and bachata competition, well, salsa competition at that time started after your first solo. What happened and why? Yeah, what happened for you to actually following this path?
So basically, really, it wasn't my first solo, it was more of my second. But my first solo that I had, I did with a choreographer, and he was there for 3 days. We did and I was very new. Like, I danced before, but I wasn't really used to, like, had never done a solo. I had only been in like really, really large groups, and I wasn't used to picking up choreo at a very fast pace. So that was a kind of difficult experience because after we did the choreo in 3 days, I remembered nothing. I had to learn it all again from videos. But at this point, like, I couldn't even tell you what an 8 count was in music. Like, I literally couldn't even count. So it was like I would just practice from the video, and it was really stressful. But in the end, ended up doing really well. Well, I did well with that. I got first place in the 17 under, and that was my first competition. And I only had a salsa solo at that point. So I had that only for like a couple months, which is why like I count it, but I also don't count it. After that solo, I started my new one, which was my first project working with my professional partner, my teacher now. And he did that solo. And you know that feeling when you have a song that you can't really explain why, but you just kind of connect to it. Like I felt with the first solo that I had, that one that I had only for like a couple months, I didn't really connect to it. Like I just felt awkward. Like I would dance and I was like, and it wasn't that the choreography was amazing. Like I love the choreographer. He's an amazing artist. But I just kind of felt like it wasn't me. But I couldn't explain why because I didn't have enough knowledge and I didn't know. I didn't have a style. Like I was new. But then when this solo came around, my teacher Anna actually picked a song, and she told me, she's like, it's a song I've always wanted to dance and everything. And the minute I heard it, I just was like that feeling where you're just like, you're like, yes, this is for me. I always like to say that I pick songs that are super, super annoying because the girl is so always like screaming.
Mm.
But yeah, I heard the song and I loved it. And after he, so I remember I had a week and then there was a social and I said, I'm going to present my solo. Like, I'm like, I don't care how bad it is. I'm just going to do it. So then we did it in like 3 days and I spent every day practicing so that I could do it at the end of the week. And then I did the show. And after that, it was kind of just like addicting after that. Like I practiced all the time. I like tried to figure it out. And the thing is that like if I look back, the first solo that I had, the one that I said like was in my style, because of like the more technical elements, it was easier for me to execute. But this one, I loved it so much that I just like I worked at it a lot, and still like there's so many errors. Like I found it so difficult at the time, but it was like I think that's to the day like the solo that sticks out to me the most because it started like my love for all of this, and it gave me the urge to compete. Compete. I started competing alone. Like I didn't just wait for wherever my school would go or my academy would go. I kind of started branching out and it was kind of what really started like my passion for all of this.
The second song you're mentioning is Lupita, right?
Yeah, El Carbonero.
Okay, because I saw a post of you saying you were so kind of sad to leave this choreography
To
because
leave
it
it.
meant so much to you. And this is the choreography I actually found you on because this is the one you.
Oh yeah, that is the one I
Yeah.
did at Bacanissima.
And I love this song too. I'm obsessed.
I
I'm in love
love
with
that song. And then after that, I did La Reina, and people say like I love how La Lupe sings. Like I just love her voice.
it.
But I have an amateur partner. His name is Andrew, and he always tells me he's like, "You picked the most annoying songs," and I'm like, "I love them.
I love
What can I do?"
it. Okay. Who does the choice of your program choice songs?
He does.
Okay.
So with the first one, I didn't really have like much experience still. I just went into the room and he's like, "Here is our song." And then we just started the choreo. We
Mhm.
did that choreo in literally like 4 hours in a day. And then we went doing like all the modifications. For the new one, I love that song so much. But also he found it. One day he just sent me a message. He's like, "I got it." Because he spent like I kept asking him for like 3 weeks straight. Do you have a song? Do you have a song? Do you have a song? Just because I like to when I get new choreo or like when I'm anticipating to start new choreo, I like listening to the song like repeatedly. Like I'll play it like in the background if in the shower, like I don't know, just to I don't even really think I like do anything. Like I'm not thinking about where the musicality is. Like I'm not thinking. I just like subconsciously listen and it kind of works out easier that way. I probably should be thinking, but I'm not most of the time. But then he played that song and I just I completely fell in love with it. I love the song, the style, the choreo. But that experience with the new one has been a little bit more difficult because they put the visa for Mexicans to come into Canada.
Oh,
So I actually ended up going out there for a month to learn it.
okay.
So I was in Acapulco for 1 month in July to learn the choreo. And then we were supposed to compete it at Canada Salsa and Bachata Congress. That was supposed to be our debut. But he didn't end up coming. He didn't end up getting his visa until the end of October.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow.
he ended up coming November, and then we trained for that month, and then we did it at Euroson. So we only had like 2 months worth of training before we did it at Euro, and that was our debut.
And you did amazing, right? Because you did fourth and seventh, if I'm not wrong.
Fourth and third. I did fourth with him in salsa. We got third in bachata. I got seventh in my salsa solo, and then second in bachata solo.
Okay, thank you. I told you so many places, but I I have one place that I kept in my mind is the one from Mambolee. You won
Yeah,
in Mambolee. How was that?
it was a great experience, and I mean, I will be honest. Euro is always like the not always. I've only done it twice, but it's the competition that it's always like the hardest experience for me. I'd say
Oh, really?
because although it seems like even from what I post, it seems like, oh, like I'm having the best time and I'm
Yeah.
so like calm and relaxed and I'm ready. I'm not ready.
Mhm.
The first year I did it, I actually like I got off stage after I performed with Peter. I started crying. I started bawling. I was a complete mess. I actually have pictures of my friend hugging me, like from that day, because I was crying. I was so upset with how we performed because I thought that we made a little mistake. Well, it wasn't even a mistake. Like you can only tell if you really like pay attention to it. But I got caught in the floor at one point, and then when I fell down to do like a trick, like just a slide, I kind of like fell down wrong. And in hindsight, it wasn't that bad. But in the moment, like I put so much pressure on myself, and I wanted it to be so perfect that I was like a mess. So then going into this Euroson, like I tried not to put that pressure on myself, but at the same time, I had that feeling of like you walked away so unhappy last time that like I just all I wanted was to like walk away feeling satisfied with my work. But at the same time, I found that kind of hard because we had so little practice time. We like the bachata routine that we did was a spur of the moment decision. Like we actually weren't going to compete it. And then last minute, I said, "Can we please just compete it? Like I don't care how bad it is. Like I just want to do it." So we ended up knocking that out in 2 weeks, and then I had to go and perform it. And that was I didn't think it was going to be as nerve wracking as it was, but yeah. So I normally have a little bit of a hard. I've had a hard time processing my own emotions because I just want everything to go a certain way, and
Mhm.
it's hard to like not everything's perfect. That's part of life and that's part of being human. And I ended up walking away happy. Like I have a different experience now, but I still struggle a lot with being content with myself after I do my shows or my performances or just that feeling of like being able to like be proud of yourself for the work that you've accomplished.
Was it the case for the Mambolee competition?
I went out there 2 days before. I was so stressed because it was my first time competing after Euro, so we hadn't seen each other in 2 months.
Okay.
And then it was right after Euro, and I'm telling you, like that first Euro son, I thought I did so bad. I was so upset. So then when I was going out there, I also had that feeling of like, okay, I have to do it good now. But it was really nice, and this is part of the reasons why I love competing in Mexico, is because aside from the expectations that I put on myself, I feel like I have no expectation. Like I feel like I I can just do my best and I don't have to worry about placing because the level there is so high that it's just like I'm not gonna expect like I don't expect any place. Like I literally just go and I say, okay, I'm gonna do my best, and it's really nice to perform that way, like without expectation. Like I'm always striving to do my best and I always want to do my best, but at the same time, I'm aware that it's really hard and the level is really high. So I kind of went out there just trying with that in mind, just trying to do my best and have fun. And I think actually during the awards, he was more nervous than I was for the first
Okay.
time. That is the only time that has ever happened. Normally, I'm always a wreck. But for that competition, I was actually calm. And it was the best feeling ever to hear that, like, the first place, because it's just something that you've waited for so long. You know what I mean? Because even in Toronto, like, we ended up getting third. We passed in fifth, so going up to third was like we were still really happy with that because that's hard to do as well in the final.
Yeah.
And then in Euro, I will say like I was disappointed, not really by the score, but just by how I performed. So then having Mambolee be like the first place that was so like awaited for, and then like feeling just good about your presentation was I think a very like special moment for me.
So you felt proud about your showcase and the result, right?
Pardon?
So you felt at the Mambolee competition. I feel you're saying that you, of course, you're happy with the result, but more than enough, but more than everything, you're so happy about what you showed the public, right?
Yeah, it was also my first time competing as an amateur in a solo, and then I ended up placing. So, and I didn't expect
Mm-hmm.
anything really in that front. I have kind of a low expectation of myself when it comes to my solos, which isn't the
Where
best.
did that come from? Because
I
I'm going to tell you, you don't know it, but there are so many French competitors following you. I know it because when I go on your page, I see French people, like, the little bubbles with the pictures, and I'm like,
yes, so it says like
she's a
followed by.
star. She's a star, and she doesn't know it. Like, and we see you from outside, like, it's amazing from such a young age to be at that level. But you always mention that for you it's not enough yet. So where
It's
does
not
that
that
come from?
it's not that it's not enough. I just think I have a really hard time just with like my mentality, and I think it's something that a lot of dancers struggle with. But for me specifically, I I never feel like I'm advancing enough. I never feel like I'm growing fast enough. I never feel like, and it's kind of like a constant thing where it's like I want to keep growing and I want to keep growing, and sometimes I feel like I just get stuck, and sometimes it's hard for me to find the motivation because instead of looking at other people for motivation, sometimes it tends to bring me down because I just feel like
Mhm.
I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
I think it's also hard too because like over there I go and it's like I say, like I don't really have a lot of expectations for myself, and it's not because I don't think that I'm like a good dancer, but it's just that the level and the caliber of dancers is so different that it's just I find myself like comparing myself a lot, and then then when I do manage to get like a podium, it feels really really nice.
Mhm.
But it's also been like a really hard journey with learning how to control my mentality and not let my like bad thoughts, to call them, take over, because also that negativity isn't helpful to anyone.
Absolutely. How many hours per week do you dance or train for the competition?
It kind of depends. I Right now we're rehearsing with the team, so just in team practices, every Tuesday and Thursday we do 2 hours, and then Sunday another 2 hours. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. And then I do the drop in and shines classes twice a week. So that's another 2 hours. So that's another 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then sometimes I'll go in extra hours for my solo and stuff like that. But that's more dependent on studio availability and things like that.
Okay. You only dance one. Okay, so you don't train that much your solos.
I do, but right now, I'm in a transition period. So
Okay.
I'm about to get my new solo when he comes back.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
kind of like right now it's like the period where I'm switching between routines. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of waiting for the new choreo to come in and everything like that. But normally or last year I traveled a lot. So I always try to use the competitions as like markers. So if I know that I have a competition coming up, then I'll start to amp up my practices. Me and my amateur partner usually try to train 2 to 3 times a week. And then with him, usually I'll practice my solos and everything like that all in one go, so we don't waste that much time.
Okay.
But right now, it's like also the same thing where like we just got our routines, so we have to try and iron them out. But sometimes it's more like right now it's more dependent on like when the studio is available. Then like so that's why we don't have a set time yet. But normally we try to go in every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday.
So you're almost at 15 hours of dancing per week, right?
Yeah, something like that.
If I'm counting. Okay.
Honestly, I don't keep track because it changes every week. Like whenever I can go in, if they tell me the studio's free, I'll go in.
Okay. I ask because the goal of this is why I'm doing all those interviews, because I want to show people that it's work and it's the same amount of work than any other elite sport. So to give
Yeah.
more the athlete etiquette to people, but more than the, oh, the salsa social dancer. No, we're not here. It's
It's
not
a lot
the
of
same
it's a lot of
exactly.
work, and I
It's
think it's a
work.
lot of consistency.
Hmm.
Because even when I'm not at the studio, like I'll be at home in my kitchen and I'll just turn on music and I'll just randomly start dancing. Like,
Really?
yeah, like
My God.
I, sometimes I find that that helps me a lot too. It's just dancing for fun. I tend to get really caught up in like looking at my shows, and I focus a lot on the negative, as I've probably talked about. But I like I always see what I do wrong, so I find that just like sometimes letting loose and just letting it all out, it's like one of the best ways for me not only to de-stress but also to improve and to grow, because the less tense you are, like the less tense your body is, the easier it's going to be for you to move, the easier it's going to be for you to like flow, the easier it's going to be for you to breathe, you know?
Can you talk more about your competition preparation? Can we take, for example, the last Euroson um, competition as example? Like, what do you eat? Do you have a mental preparation coach? Or what happens when you're
Okay.
behind?
Okay, so I will say I normally, before I go into a competition, especially one as big as that one, honestly, I tend to, at least for the past 2 years, which is something that's not good, I tend to go like, let's say I'm progressing here, I usually tend to have like a downward spiral a little bit, because I just start thinking about how it's gonna go. Like, I think, like, oh, I have to get in the studio, I have to get in the studio. Like, I start almost getting like this anxiety of like, oh, I need to train, I need to train, I need to train. But then going in all the time sometimes isn't as effective. Like, you can get more accomplished done in 2 hours where you're actually focusing on something than just going in and just running and doing nothing but not even knowing how to fix. So that's something that I've learned. It's like more or quality over quantity. It's like actually focusing on things that you can fix and not just getting in like this crazy haze of like, oh, I have to do it, I have to do it. But one thing that has been really helpful for me lately has been writing down my goals and having my goals not be so focused on a place. Like, I think when I started competing in Mexico, which was last year, like that first Euroson in Bacanísima, if you look at my goals from that year, it was like win first place in this, win second place in this, win third place in this, let's say. Or and it's always good to aspire to have those goals and to aspire to a podium, but not everything goes your way, right? And it's hard. Like, it's tough out there. Like, everybody's working just as hard as you, if not harder. So it's very hard to, I think, come to terms with that. So I realized that when I'm setting goals and things like that, it should be more focused on me and like my benefit. So like my main goal for this year was just try and come off stage feeling content, because I would always come off and I'd be like, I know that I messed it up. I know that I did this wrong. Like, I was literally never happy. Like, I would get off and do my solos and I'd be like, that was so bad. Like, that's the first thing I would tell my coach every single time I saw him. He'd be like, how did you feel? And I'd be like, I did awful. And then it wouldn't even be that bad. Like, I'd get like a third or a second or even a first. But still, that feeling of like not doing your best, that comes from inside, because I can mess up and I can still do my best for that day. And that was something that was really hard for me to understand. Like, this past Euroson and my solos, I know they weren't perfect. Like, I know there was things I could fix, but I know that I did the best that I could that day. So no matter what the result was, I ended up feeling happy with myself. Like, I came off stage, and I think that was one of the first times where I genuinely said like I'm good, like no matter what happens, you know?
Mhm.
And that was such a nice feeling. So I think the mental aspect is something that I have to really try and take care of, and that's one of the things that's helped me. In terms of food, I am not the best example. I should probably be eating better, to be honest. But I like literally I have a jar of Nutella right here.
Okay. Thank you
Like,
for your transparency and honesty so we don't feel as bad.
no, I just I don't like limiting myself. Like, I'm also not gonna eat like Nutella every 5 minutes of every day or chocolate or anything like that. Like, I do try to maintain like a semi-healthy diet, you know what I mean? But I also try not to limit myself because I have fallen in the past in like a bad habit of not enjoying food because I was like limiting myself and trying to, control what I eat, and it's not fun that way. Food is something that fuels you. So
Yeah.
of course trying to eat like the best you can, but if you like don't have that fuel, you're going to end up performing worse.
Yeah.
So I just try not to limit myself, and then whenever it comes to competitions, eat food that is healthier but that I still like. So
Mhm.
I don't feel like I'm necessarily like limiting myself or changing anything in my diet.
Okay. And once you are at the Euroson place, how does that happen? Oh, plus you experienced the Cancun edition and the Puebla edition. How was the
Yeah.
difference? How did you eat? How did you sleep? How did you train? Can you tell you
Okay. I will say I think it's a common consensus that the Cancun one was
the best?
more loved. Let's put it that way. And I have to agree. I've only been twice, and I felt so lucky. I was like, I went to the last one in Cancun before they moved it. But then they moved it back, which was great.
Yeah.
I think that it being in Cancun was a lot easier for tourists because it was just a direct flight, and it was you're in a place that's like just more touristic in general. So it's like, let's say it didn't even go that well for you in the competition, and you were out the first day. Like, let's say you didn't even make it to finals. You still have the pool. You have like food whenever you want because it was an all-inclusive hotel. At the end, I felt like what you paid for an experience, and that's what you got, right? Like you got the whole show, you got the huge stage, you got like the room, everything in one place. You didn't even have to leave the hotel. You could practice like all over. Like that hotel is humongous.
Mhm.
So it was just really convenient, especially because it's hard sometimes to like. One thing that was hard for me in Puebla was like getting food because let's say like okay you're done competing and awards were at like 8 o'clock. Okay, then after 8 o'clock you have to practice with the team. Okay, you go and you practice, but then after that you have to practice your solos, and then after that you have to practice groups. So let's say you're finishing at like 1 in the morning. What restaurant is open at 1 in the morning?
Yeah.
So then it's like that was like what was so convenient about the all inclusive, like no matter what time of day like you could find food.
Mhm.
And then you like let's say like not even about like finding food because obviously things close, but you could take a break, go get food, and then come back because it
Yeah.
was literally like 2 steps away.
Yeah.
But then here like you have to walk from your hotel to the convention center, and then from the convention center outside to get food, and then from that place to get food back to your hotel. um I liked the food better than the resort food, but because it's tacos and all that stuff you have on the street. But convenience wise, it was a lot easier in Cancun. And
Okay.
I just feel like the experience overall was a lot better just because like there was so much more production, the space was bigger. Um, and I feel like just more outsiders ended up coming. Like the competition, I think was equally as strong,
Oh,
but I do
really?
think that
Because some people say they were less competitive.
I would say in my category, I had like this. I think there were like the same amounts of people. Not in all categories. For
Okay.
me, I feel like it was like I don't know if there was anyone that I could say like really. There was like a couple that were missing, but I still felt like it was pretty strong.
Okay.
Maybe not equally. You have a point there, but it was quite strong. But in other categories, yeah, there was because there was a lot less people. There
Okay.
was a lot less people compared to Cancun.
Great. Okay. Okay. Okay.
But
And
so yeah, I think Cancun overall, it was great that they moved it back.
I still need to know, like you mentioned, like three different practices. For how long do you dance? Because there are some people who actually don't want to dance that much before the competition. What's the background of the Eurosong competition?
In terms of like how much I practice when I'm
Yeah,
out there.
exactly.
Okay, so I'm also one of those people that's not like the biggest fan of practicing once you're at a competition. Um, so when I was there, I ran my solos the day before my semi started, but once I was in my semifinals, I didn't really practice my solos after that. It was more of like visualizing them with the music, marking them. But because I knew like once you're at that point, there's really nothing that you're going to fix. There's
Okay.
nothing that you're going to change. There's nothing that you're going to fix. All the work has been done. All your work was done prior. And once you get to that point, it's what you have. So if you have it, you have it. And if you don't, you don't. So, and I also feel like just focusing on what you don't have stresses me out. So it wasn't really, I don't really like necessarily practicing that hard before my competitions in terms of solos. Now with the partner, we do like to like practice the nights before because also we just have so little practice time in general that those extra hours, like whatever else we can kind of bang in is needed for us. And that's how it works. Like I think both of us prefer to like be really calm with our solos, but when it comes to our partner work, we do try to like practice for at least an hour each day
Mm-hmm.
when
How
we're out there.
were you surprised when they mentioned your name for the second place this year?
Yes.
Oh, tell
I
us.
don't know if you have a video. There's a video of me crying. Um, it was, I honestly wasn't expecting it because like, I went from winning alumno that first year, but that was really unexpected. Like, because I had never really competed in Mexico and never at like a competition of that caliber. Like I remember when I told my mom like I want to go to Euroson Latino. They were my parents are very very supportive. It was actually my birthday and Christmas gift going to that competition.
Oh,
But I remember even when I told my partner, he was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." Like he didn't believe me, not because of the level, but he just didn't think that like I was actually gonna do it. And then one day I come to the studio and I'm like, "I booked my flights." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I booked my flights. Like I'm going." And he's like, "Okay, like we gotta work. We gotta work." But it's just something. It was literally just something that I kind of just decided that I wanted to do for myself. So then being able to place was such a surreal moment. And then I spent kind of that whole year after that with my bachata solo. Like in Imperio, I was fourth. Like um, Oaxaca, I was seventh. Like I was so close, but I wasn't quite there yet.
mhm,
So then with this new choreo, like I had lots of ambitions for the category. So then being able to like when I debuted it, I ended up getting first, and then competing in Canada, I also got first, and those were kind of surprises. Like I was like, oh, thank God! Like, so I went into Eurosun with like um, no hopes again because I don't like to put like that
for sure.
bar for myself because I just feel like it's more of a hindrance than a help to me. Um, but when I ended up passing in second and I ended up, I was so scared that I wasn't going to pass. I remember talking to another dancer that was there, Fernando Mora. I was talking to him and I was like, I was crying before they even announced the names. And I just said, please, like, I just want to pass because I was crying. And I was like, please, like, I just want to pass to the final. And then they're announcing like the 10 names. And when you get to like fourth and you don't hear your name, I thought I wasn't going to pass. Like, I genuinely thought I was like, please, please, God. Like, I was praying. I was like, Jesus, please. So then when I heard my name, just that I passed, I did not care what place I was in. Like, I did not care at all. I was just like, I passed. That's it. I
Mhm.
didn't even really know that I passed in second until like I was looking at the scores and like I was gonna post it on Instagram and I was like, oh, I actually did like not that bad, you know? Because I just all I wanted was to hear my name. Like after I heard my name, I was done. I was just like, woohoo, party
One.
time, all good. That in itself, passing was honestly just enough for me. Like no matter what happened in the final, I was so proud of myself that I was just able to get to that point. And same with salsa. I think my journey with salsa has been a lot harder. Um, so it was definitely a surreal moment also passing in salsa because I spent the whole year in Oaxaca, Mambolee, La Conquista, Imperio. I never placed. And it wasn't really about the place, but I wouldn't even pass to the finals. I would always get like sixth or like ninth. Like I was in the top 10, but I wasn't in the top 5. So it was like to finally make it to a final in a competition like that. It was like all your hard work, like you just know that it paid off. And I was getting really discouraged. Like I almost thought of not competing in salsa because this is what I mean when I say like I have like a low before the competitions normally. I just thought it was going to be a waste of my time
Yeah.
because I thought like I'm not that a place matters and it shouldn't. I'm not advocating for this, but I just kind of thought that like I'm not even going to get anything from it. So what's the point? I thought it was just like I'm going to be practicing when I could be practicing for other things that will actually like I will actually like do well with, you know?
Okay, yeah.
I talked to my coach and he said, "Nope, you're doing it." And I said, "Okay." And I ended up doing it, and that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I think one thing I will really take away, like of course the second place in bachata, like I worked so hard for that, and it was such a good feeling. But the feeling of making it to a final in salsa was like equally as rewarding. And I didn't even place. I got 7th, but it was equally as rewarding because I know how much work was put in and like how that process has been like coming along.
I think we're slowly starting to arrive at the end of the interview. It's been
Okay.
mostly 1 hour together, but I still have questions. So let's do a small game. I'm going to ask you a question and you have to answer like with one word if you want one.
Okay. Sure.
Who does your dress? Who makes your
Who
dress?
does my what, sorry?
Your dresses, your dance competition outfits.
Oh, Yelkin Dance Store. They're yeah, that's one word.
Do you have a sponsor for your shoes?
No.
Okay. So, what's the brand of your
I
shoes?
wish I had a sponsor for my shoes.
It's a call. I'm
I
looking
wish, but
for.
I my favorite type of shoes are Ray Rose.
Okay. Are we going to see you at the summit this year?
No, not this year.
Okay. Are
Hopefully
you
next year.
okay? Are you going to be at the next Euroson Latino competition?
Yes, for sure.
And do I think we're done?
Okay.
Actually, I have so many more questions, but I think that more than 1 hour is going to be too much. Well, see, yes, if I'm looking for people who can bring value. It can be in Spanish and English to the salsa and bachata competition. So my question is, who should I interview?
That is a great question. You could interview one of the girls like that I also compete. We compete together. She's really really nice. Her name is Amanda Tierra Blanca.
Okay.
She speaks Spanish and she's a Mexican dancer. She's competing in amateur just like me. And normally like we're always in the same kind of spots. And she's a really 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 nice girl and a phenomenal dancer. Like she's amazing.
Well, thank you. I might ask you later to send me her contact.
Yeah, for sure.
Andrea, thank you so much for your honesty, transparency about
Thank you.
your struggle, your podiums. I really hope it's going to be our first but not last interview. And let me tell you that France is following you.
Oh,
We
thank you.
love your work and you're absolutely amazing. Thank you for being so fresh, so authentic, and an amazing dancer for the competitors community. If you want to follow the next competition of Andrea, of course, her contact will be in the bio. I tell you, ciao, ciao. Let's see you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much. Bye.